Net at Work Forum, organized by the Martin Center for European Studies and the Konstantinos Karamanlis Institute for Democracy. I am Panagiotis Kakolyris. I'm the head of international affairs at the Konstantinos Karamanlis Institute. And when we're talking about geopolitics nowadays, it is impossible not to analyze the digital dimension. International relations and politics today are not determined only by geography, as Aristotle very early pointed out. In fact, the new technological capabilities shape the new balances in the emerging global international system. This is why we try to explore the digital dimension of geopolitical Europe. Digital transformation has been identified as a multidimensional challenge for Europe, having important implications in the European competitiveness and economic growth, playing also a key role to international geopolitical competition. So the persisting digital divide within the European Union, the growing dependence on foreign technological developments, foreign software, hardware, and cloud services, the lack of cutting-edge digital academic expertise in Europe are really very worrying factors for that, and factors that can influence even the course of the European Union. So artificial intelligence, 5G, cloud computing, competition policies, cyber defense, and security, these are some key points that that combine a demanding environment for the new European digital vision and strategy, and of course, the needed policies for that. So we're going to discuss these key issues with a very distinguished panel. Today, we have with us Mr. Leonidas Christopoulos, who is Secretary General of Digital Governance and Simplification Procedures at the Greek Ministry of Digital Governance, Mr. Axel Voss, MEP from CDU Germany, and member of the Special Committee on Artificial Intelligence in Digital Age, and Mr. Pinto, Director for Digital Transformation of Digital Europe, this organization that represents the digital technological industry in Europe. So first of all, I would like to thank you for joining us today. And before going to our first speaker, I would like to encourage our audience to send us the questions they have on Facebook just under the live stream. So, Mr. Christopoulos, I think that we all agree that if Europe fails to act in one, ultimately, in this digital environment, we will not be able to win international competition against the digital superpowers. And this is why we need, I believe, a different mindset, not only Brussels, but also in the member states. So I would like to give us the scope from Greece and also give us an overview of the politics about digital transformation and the new tools you are using in your ministry. Just to say to our international audience that the Greek government has reacted very fast at the beginning of the COVID crisis and presented a new portal, the gov.gr, with new digital services for the citizens. And Mr. Christopoulos was a key person, was a person among the people who are behind this success. Mr. Christopoulos, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Kakolyris. I would like to thank the Wilfried Martins Institute for the invitation to participate in such an interesting discussion. As you very rightly said, in Greece, we try to respond to the crisis and be able to construct a digital agenda that is both looking at the European level on one side and at the national level on the other side. Having a first degree on international relations and having studied this area for many years when I was in the university, I would say that what we are witnessing right now at the global level is a profound change of how the international system works. I remember as a student talking about, the relationship between states and markets, which at that time it was very, a state-of-the-art discussion in the academia on how states are retrieving or not in front of market powers and how they should function in such an international environment. And after some years, and not many, this environment has changed completely. If someone takes into consideration the technological advances that have happened and the pace, the speed in which these advances are actually happening. Right now, we're seeing that the digital and the physical sphere, the boundaries between the two spheres are blurring, and the states are trying to adapt and to this new situation. And you can see that the digital sphere can have actually real effect in the real world, and mainly from actors, not only from corporations or state actors, but also from very influential individuals that are using the digital sphere in order to have a real political or societal consequences in our lives. So, of course, this is a discussion that is gaining relevance, and from a geopolitical point of view, I believe that states are trying to understand, to grasp what is going on, what is happening in the technological world, in order to be able to reap the benefits of this new technological revolution, let's say, and also be able to face the challenges and the threats, the dangers that this new situation might pose. And I would say that in such an environment, at least from the perspective of a country like Greece, the European arena, the European area, the European Union should be the main level of policy making and of regulations that will shape tomorrow's future for both for the digital economy as well as for the digital society. In my respect, whatever the states, the member states of the European Union do, should be in a very concrete framework inside the European Union, in order to be able to have the positive externalities that the digital economy and the digital society were. In my opinion, Europe is the natural environment in which digital economy and society can flourish, as I said, by reaping the economic benefits. So, in that respect, I believe that from a member state's point of view, let's say, we should explore at the European Union level how we should, let's say, amend, if that is the right word that someone would use, to to adjust the decision making process of the European Union in a more flexible way and more suited to the digital world. Because right now the advances are so quick, the speed the pace of the changes is very quick, and we need to see both at the state and at the European level to see whether the decision-making processes that we have put in place are actually suitable to address these kinds of environment that we are creating. And of course, we need to see, taken from the decision making process, we need to see whether the legal framework that we are creating and the way we are creating the legal framework, and that goes for Greece as well, for all member states, and for the European Union as well, is suited and is the right, let's say, instrument to regulate the new digital world. I have read many times that the lawmaking procedures in many member states, and it's consideration in many member states, the lawmaking procedures are quite bureaucratic sometimes in order to address the speed in which the digital environment is advancing. So we need to revisit all these procedures, the internal state and European Union procedures, to see that they are actually fit for purpose. And of course, we need to be able to balance two main issues. The first one is to, of course, regulate in order to protect the common good and the common values, the common European values that we all have in terms of data protection, etc. But we also need to do it in a manner that it will not place over excessive burdens to development, to innovation, and to all these things that we are striving and we're trying to do in order to make the European markets and the European societies more innovative and create more wealth. And of course, a last issue that I would like to raise is the issue of security. I wouldn't see any other level playing field other than the European Union that we should all cooperate in order to be able to protect the European values and, of course, the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure, in ways that we are certain that it will not be threatened by anyone who has an evil mean, let's say. So in that respect, I would very briefly like to describe what we've done in Greece in the last 15 to 16 months in order to be able to address these issues in the digital world and in the new geopolitical environment. First of all, we took a very brave decision that we created the new Ministry of Digital Governance, bringing together all administrative structures in the Greek public administration that had to do with e-government or generally with the digital governance agenda. And we did that in order to be able to take very quick decisions. We realized that we need to have one unit, one administrative unit, in order to design and implement and supervise, let's say, the rest of public administration in all the digital issues, because speed is of essence. And having done that, we also implemented some regulations in order to give this ministry very big regulatory powers in terms of interoperability, in terms of infrastructures like cloud computing, and in terms of how to use projects under the European funds. Second of all, we codified the regulatory framework that was existing in Greece regarding digital governance. We brought together all the different all the different legal acts into a new code, and we also brought together the EU directives, the new EU directives, very early in the process in this new code in order to have a very comprehensive regulatory framework. And we also tried to amend the lawmaking procedure by changing the impact assessments of the Greek government and incorporating inside the way each bill is affecting e-government structures in the public administration. Apart from that, as you said, we created a single digital gateway to provide new public services. It's the gov.gr, which is currently offering almost 700 digital public services to the Greek citizens. And we've taken some other steps as well, like institutionalizing the cloud first policy in the Greek public administration, rolling out the 5G auctions very quickly, even inside the pandemic, and creating what we think is an innovative instrument, the Festos Fund, which is a fund that will use money from the 5G auction in order to support a 5G startup ecosystem in Greece that will support innovation that is based on technology and on 5G technologies. That we believe is an innovative instrument that will help us build the necessary ecosystem to proceed forward with Greece. It is a tool that has been recognized by the European Commission as a very good innovation, and that we believe will actually support the Greek government in implementing the digital agenda. And last but not least, we're setting up the Digital Academy for Citizens, which is an instrument that will help us support the reskilling and upskilling of all citizens in Greece, because that is a very important pillar. We might do many things, but if we don't invest in the skills agenda, I believe that we will lag behind no matter what we do. These are some of the things we've done the past 15 months. I would like to close my first remarks here, and I'm waiting for the discussion and your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your intervention. I keep many points from what you said. I keep values, security, and 5G for the next stage of our conversation. I will go to Mr. Voss because one of the priorities of the German presidency was the challenge of digitalization. And I remember Chancellor Merkel in the European Parliament saying that it is important for Europe to become digitally sovereign, that we need to make progress, particularly in such as artificial intelligence, and also in the development of trustworthy, secure digital infrastructure. Of course, this is not an issue that we can address in 6 months of the German presidency, but there are already an extensive debate in the parliament about the Digital Service Act. And I would like to ask you, what is at stake? What can we expect from Europe? And I'm saying that because there's also a kind of criticism that overregulation is not a panacea. Mr. Voss, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for having me. So let me say at first, I more than less totally agree what Leonidas Christopoulos said. And so what is at stake? I would say from my personal view, everything is on stake. So if we are looking to our wealth, if we are looking to growth, etc., this is something what is depending in the future on digital issues. And of course, we are doing a lot right now, and also the presidency is always fighting for it. But this, and this is something what was already said by Leonidas, that we are too slow. So time or speed is something what we need, but in our very slow structures, we are not coming to that point that we are really reacting on a kind of a new development. And so that's why we are too complicated so far, probably too fragmented. And because of the geopolitics, if we are, Europe is a kind of in a sandwich position right now between the US and China. And also, if we are looking to the claim of China in becoming the world leader in digital issues, so we are fragmented, too fragmented in the Western world. We are too fragmented in the European Union and also in our democracies and the member states. Probably we are too fragmented. This is a disadvantage already, and therefore we need to come forward. We need to have this changing of mindsets, also especially in the national political level. And we have to, joining our forces that we can compete with others. And this is already a question of, do we want to survive in the digital world? And or do we want to be a colony, a data colony of the US or the Chinese? And this is, I would say, what we can't really have in mind if we are talking about digital issues. So we need to be more flexible, we need to be more encouraged, and we need to have this digital sovereignty by introducing a European way towards an increasingly digitized world. And in particular here to develop a strategic digital agenda that also includes large investments. And this is, I would say, is a missed opportunity right now if we're coming to the COVID situation and the recovery plan, that we are not concentrating really on something what is future orientated. We are giving some money to this situation, but not that much what we need to become also a kind of a leader in some digital areas. So Europe needs also to advance the digital single market, and by updating its competition policy, by pushing for a fair and effective taxation system for digital companies, by improving also our digital infrastructure, by increasing our cybersecurity resilience, and by facilitating investments as well as the access to public funding. So this is all on stake to become better here. And of course, Europe needs also to change the way its political processes and governmental systems. And here you can see this is such a broad approach on this issue, what we need, and therefore we need to have this courage in taking on the chances of coming forward. So we need also to ensure that our digital life of our citizens is based on a fair, safe, and also sustainable foundation, avoiding gaps in this digital connectivity by improving digital literacy skills and critical thinking about the use of new tools, by promoting sustainable digital technologies, etc. And therefore, we need a strategy. And so far, I would say we don't have really a kind of a overall plan and how is Europe coming forward. What we are doing right now and in the Commission, and I'm very grateful already for these, but again, we need to be broader and having a kind of a broader approach, but we will come up now with the Digital Services Act, with the Data Governance Act, with the Digital Market Act, with the Data Act itself, and so on. So we have already a lot of the agenda, and also what we have to concentrate on now, the strategic new tool of artificial intelligence. We have to focus these more deeply. If we are losing here, then we will be out of the game. So that's why we have to concentrate on priorities and doing these, or doing our legislative process faster. And then we might come also to additional approaches where we might initiate also to improve the skills of our citizens in the member states. Of course, there is always a legal question regarding the competences, and here, and this is something what Leonidas Christopoulos also mentioned, we need a change of the mindset of especially the national politicians, that if we are joining or would like to join our forces in Europe, we need European projects where every member state can contribute and be a part of it. But otherwise, I can't see how we will compete with other regions in the world. And this is what I would say is at stake. And of course, we have a lot of problems, legal problems, also in the detail and practical problems, and so on, but we have to go forward and changing these, but also going beyond the digital sovereignty, because we need to set also some priorities, otherwise we won't succeed.
To be honest, I have the feeling of a kind of disappointment, I would say, taking consider the fact that you said that we don't have a clear strategy about the digital age from the side of the European Union, and it is disappointing. And the worrying factor is that the factor of speed, because digital environment is a real-time environment, and at the same time, European Union has kind of slow procedures, and I wonder whether this is a challenge to overcome the technical difficulties in policy and be more active and more effective in addressing the challenges that are changing actually from day to day. It's not something that we have to wait for a month or 2 months. the challenges, the technological challenges, are changing in a dramatic way. So I wonder what kind of changes can we have in the European Union in order to be more effective in our international competition?
So I do not want to be disappointed or so, but I still think we need to be impatient. We need to come forward. So, of course, there's a lot of things to do, and we have to have in mind the world is not waiting for us. And that's why we need to adapt all these developments in a less time consuming issues. So, but I know it's totally difficult to change our democratic structure and the legislative process. But I think we have to, and I'm approaching these more than less in a way of we should have a kind of a digital revolution also in Europe. And this revolution includes also the processes and the thinking and the mindset, etc. So otherwise, I do not see really that we can at the end compete. So, of course, our system in Europe is or has a kind of a disadvantage already implemented. So other regions might have one tradition, one legal structure, one language, and one tradition, and so on. And this is splitted and fragmented in the European Union. But to be on eye level at the end, we have to overcome these, and therefore we need political leadership right now, not only from the European level, also from the national level. And here I'm expecting more from our political leaders and in our member states, and also the strong will of surviving. And so far, probably we don't feel this really, that the next step of growth and wealth will be made by digital issues, because our lives are still comfortable and so on. But I think we have to go forward and seeing what is the next step of our value chain, and how we can also be a part of it. And therefore we need to have a strategy, not only regarding China, also if we are looking to the US and the big tech companies. And if we do not have this strong will, then I can't see that we are making progress. But I know we have also to discuss the details. If we are looking to the Digital Services Act, the Data Governance Act, and also the Digital Market Act, these are also pillars for the upcoming situation on our digital market, and also a part of these European digital sovereignty. So we have to go through to these, but we also need this plan beyond digital sovereignty, because we have to set priorities, and we have to invest here, and we have to make sure that cybersecurity and the infrastructure is also well formed in place.
I see it's clear that we need actually a kind of new balance, but it is obvious that in the digital sector, the policy dimension is interlinked with the technological and the corporate one. So this is why we want the views from the industry. Digital Europe is the leading trade association representing digitally transforming industries in Europe, and Ray Pinto is the director for digital transformation. So he's our man then. You have recently published a very important report about digital investment plan for Europe. But before going that in detail, I would like to ask you a broader question. There is a general feeling that the technological innovation is not coming from Europe. Europe reacts, Europe consumes, but are we producing innovation? Ray, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Panos. I think that's a very good question. And I think often what happens is we get a little bit lost and caught up in a narrative that is very much focused on business to consumer. We see where Europe is trailing in social media and those type of technologies, but we often miss, and very often missed by many leaders in the political sphere and in the media, about Europe's leadership in business to business. And it's here where Europe has many, many strengths across many wide different areas. If you just look at that market alone, business to consumer is about a 3 trillion, I think, last time I checked, market. It's 12 trillion for business to business. It's a sizable market. It hires more people. It delivers more services. It delivers more goods. And it's here where Europe is very strong. If you look at the manufacturing sector, Europe is leading in many different technological areas. Sometimes when we see the United States, for example, there seems to be a disconnect with their manufacturing side of the country and their digital side in California, in Silicon Valley. Here in Europe, in Germany, for many, and in France as well, technology has been very much working very closely in the development of that sector. Robotics is used a lot in Europe, way more than any other industrialized region, and I think that is often missed. I think in the healthcare sector there is a lot of good stories. I was listening to the French Health Data Hub yesterday on a panel. What took 4 years for a researcher to get access to vital health data is now far more accessible, and it's done far more quickly in France. And being a French citizen, I'm very proud of that. We see the creation in the transport space as well. And I think, when we're looking at creating new materials, we look at semiconductors, we look in the area of telecoms. Europe has a lot to give and is doing a lot. But the question is, and I also do share concerns with my fellow panelists, is there is now the Resilience and Recovery Facility, which is dedicating 20% to digital. This is a really once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And are we going to use that money correctly? Are the member states building in plans that they're now giving for review that is going to update their infrastructure and boost their health systems and allow their manufacturing to be using important technologies like digital twins? When you look at climate change and the Green Deal, the Commission came out with the Renovation Wave initiative, a great initiative that's looking to renovate buildings, which is a major source of greenhouse gases. And will that money go to there to ensure that there's an upgrade? So these are things that I think need far more urgency in the political sphere. It needs legislative support. The industry has been lacking, I think, in focus in the political sphere. Far too much emphasis is in the consumer space. I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but let's look at industry, which is Europe's strengths, and then let's look at these European projects where we can lead. Why can't Europe continue to be a leader in manufacturing? Why can we not have manufacturing 4.0 being driven here? We're definitely on a trend to do so. Why can we not have the first autonomous cars to be running in Europe as well? And where is the health data system? I know that there is a view to announce the European health data space next year, and that's great. But today, a European health record can't cross over a border. As a French citizen and living in Belgium, I cannot get my health record or share my health record with my doctor here. So, in a world that is now stricken by COVID, this should not be the case. We also see SMEs, only 8% of SMEs are able to trade over European borders. There is a problem in the single market where data is not flowing internally, and this kind of has to change.
understand. I will go back again to Mr. Voss because I know that he has a parliamentary obligation at 4 o'clock, and I would like to respect his time. So I would like to ask you about ethics. Artificial intelligence and digital transformation are here to stay and will continue to transform our society. But the most pressing question is how this transformation will take place and what kind of repercussions are going to be for our societies. The Institute for Ethics and Artificial Intelligence of the Technical University of Munich is addressing AI ethics, and according to its director, Professor Lutke, artificial intelligence cannot fly without ethics. AI solutions and systems will not work without ethical standards. And I would like to ask you, what is your take on ethics? Does it really matter? And how can we act in order to address this key issue? And can we possibly, I don't know, manage to project what we call European values in this technological field?
Thank you. So, of course, we have to acknowledge that the artificial intelligence is a kind of a new step where you have algorithms that are in a way self-learning, and so we can't be sure what the outcome sometimes of these might be. And therefore, we have to make sure that the results or consequences are also in line with our standards. Of course, we shouldn't overregulate here too much, especially at the beginning. And therefore, of course, we need some ethical standards. If this is transparency, fairness, and equal treatment, and so on, and no discrimination, and so on. So we need to have this in place. And we need to have also a kind of a mechanism in place if there is a kind of an result or a kind of a consequences out of the algorithms, what we do not like, how we can correct the algorithms. But this is again also a question of data and training of data, and also again the question, where do we get the data? If we are too hesitant in bringing data or giving data or sharing data to all these algorithms, then we also might not be able to compete as a European continent. And that's why ethical standards need we have to give some guidelines here that every developer of artificial intelligence is also respecting these, knowing that these also unintendedly it might end up in a kind of a consequence what we do not consider in line with our ethical values. But at the end, so it's correct from my point of view that we are dealing in the European Parliament with these ideas of ethical standards and intellectual property rights, and also the question of liability. And if we are getting this right and giving some guidelines to everyone, then of course we need probably also someone in place who is controlling these. So this might be the Commission or a kind of a network of the member states, etc. But here we shouldn't stop the development here, and that's why I would say now it's a kind of a starting point to have these ethical standards in place. And even then there might be a correct mechanism in the ongoing developments. But so far, if we do not want to lose our values also in this developing of artificial intelligence, we have to make clear that we are following some European values in the ethical way.
Mr. Voss, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you very much. And I'm coming back to Mr. Pinto because I would like to feedback from what Mr. Voss said regarding values and the balance with control in the ecosystem. And I would like your feedback.
Thank you, Panos. I don't think they're necessarily against each other. We cannot say that AI is being developed without ethics today. What I think Mr. Voss is saying is that we need to just ensure that there are some controls. And we have been part of the initiative of the high-level group looking at how AI can be following ethical grounds. And I think we're expecting something in a couple of months in the new year, beginning of the new year, where it will be looking at data and to ensure that the data is factual, it's not leading to bias, and the output is also being looked at, and that there is a level of human supervision. But what is, I think, very important, to highlight is that, again, I agree, we need to move faster, I think, and this is going to require a lot of data. Europe is stronger together. And if you accumulate all the data of all the member states into one area, imagine the innovation and the startups that will be driven from that. When you're looking at digital sovereignty, we fully agree that Europe should be a hub for innovation, and it should be leading the discussion on values. But this should be done with partners all across the world and in an open market. There are many international companies that are investing here across research institutions, developing AI and robotics and new advanced materials, just as we have European companies across the world doing the same. And it's that symbiont, I think, relationship that we need to be fostering.
You talked about cybersecurity, and it is obvious that when we're talking about digital geopolitics, one chapter is definitely cybersecurity. We have a new framework, a new European framework, but I wonder whether we do have effective mechanisms. And I know that Greece has a new cybersecurity unit. And I would like you to explain us, first of all, about this unit and this initiative, and give us the general overview about how effective we are actually against cybersecurity challenges.
Was the question addressed to me?
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Sorry, because I didn't hear the name in the beginning.
Okay, I was saying that cybersecurity is a chapter in the digital geopolitical situation, and we have a new framework, new European framework. But I wonder whether we have an effective mechanism to implement these policies. And I would like to ask for your opinion, and I would like to ask you about this new cybersecurity unit we have in Greece.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, we have a new cybersecurity unit. Actually, we have improved the cybersecurity unit that was created a couple of years ago in order to implement the NIS directive in Greece. And we are we have already um, hired people in order to be able to function. We have also issued the regulation regarding the critical infrastructures in Greece. That was an issue. We hadn't done that for quite a while. So we are currently constructing the regulatory framework in order to be able to implement the cybersecurity policy in the framework of the NIS directive more effectively. So I believe that we are now, together with the General Secretariat of Information Systems, which is another unit here in the Ministry of Digital Government, which is in control of the infrastructure, of the governmental infrastructures, that we are now implementing a very effective cybersecurity policy, and that will be able to roll out in the following months. and we shall also use funds from the European funding instruments, as well as the RRF, as Mr. Pinto mentioned, which is a very good opportunity for us to upgrade all the critical infrastructure that we need to have in order to have a very effective cybersecurity policy. And I would also like to add regarding to what Mr. Pinto said earlier, because it's very important regarding the RRF, the Recovery and Resilience Fund, which is a very good example of what we're talking about right now. There is a golden opportunity to create the digital transformation that we're all looking for, and we aspire to have in the European continent, and we need to do it in a very flexible, fast, and effective way, both at the European as well as at the national level. It is a goal for everybody in order to be able to absorb all these resources. I mean, the 20% for the digital pillar.
In this framework, another important factor is 5G. It seems that it's going to be one of the most critical building blocks in our digital economy and society in the first decade. And there's a general feeling that we're lagging behind. I don't know if we can bridge the gap and what kind of policies we can expect. I know that the Greek government has recently undertook an initiative in this direction. Can you give us some more information about it?
Well, yes. We tried, as I said earlier, despite the pandemic and despite the COVID-19 crisis, we tried to run the auctions and the preparatory actions that we needed to do in order to run the 5G auctions very quickly. But in the framework of this policy, we tried to think a bit in a creative manner, which was that, okay, we need to have the 5G technology, but what about the demand side, the ecosystem that is necessary for the innovation based on the 5G technology. On that respect, as I said earlier, we created an instrument that will use money that will come from the auction, from the 5G auction, in order to be able to support financially the creation of a new ecosystem of startups, of new innovation companies that will be able to use the new technologies in order to create new and innovative products in Greece. So we're trying to set up a bigger ecosystem through this 5G auction. And what is very interesting in that respect is that we did something else that was, we actually discussed it with a lot of people from the startup ecosystem. We institutionalized the opportunity of these new startups and of the technology startups, of the IT startups in general, to be able to do the proof of concept of their products, of their new products, in big public entities of the Greek public sector. Because in many cases, many of the products that a lot of startups are creating have to do with the business of big public entities, and the proof of concept of these new products can only be done in these public entities. It was not easy to enter such an entity and be able to test your product. So now we give them the opportunity to do so, and if the product is successful, then the public sector can also use this product. So it's a very good way to bring together the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem that will be created, that is also in place and will be created through this new fund, together with the public sector and the needs of the public sector in a way that will be very creative for the Greek economy and hopefully for the European economy as well.
Mr. Pinto, how do you see this development, and how do you see the need for faster reaction from Europe in 5G? And are you satisfied from the initiatives that have already been taken from governments and at the European level also?
So thank you, Panos. When we look at the initiatives that are happening, we're greatly encouraged. I think what we just heard right now from the Secretary of State of Greece is exactly what governments need to be thinking and need to be doing in the member states. And I want to give another example, my favorite example, I think, of what's happening in Greece. Our member, our National Trade Association, SEPE, they're leading a project with its members to connect 34,000 public institution buildings. What does that mean? That means you have the whole of Greek government connected, moving quickly, access to fast broadband. And when you look at e-government, that is the foundation of democracy. And little irony that this is a country that invented democracy. So it's a great initiative. It's something that can be reproduced in every member state, and member states need to be considering this when they're doing their plans. Can, of course, the auctions move faster? Yes, and broadband is the lifeblood, because no matter how great your AI is or all the technologies being developed here in Europe, if you don't have the tracks for that train, then we're going to move very slowly. And the faster that we can get internet speeds to all areas, even no matter how remote they are in the EU, everyone's going to benefit.
I see. Thank you very much. I have a question from Anastasia RG, one of our viewers today, and she says that one of the most critical issues in the relationship between trust is the relationship between trust and artificial intelligence. From a psychological perspective, trust is one of the most important coping mechanisms to deal with uncertainty. How do we build trust between humans and artificial intelligence, and how can we make people feel secure in this new digital environment? I think that you can both answer this question, but I would like to start from you, Ray.
Well, I think the way we can build trust is, I think what we're hearing a lot already. The steps are being put in place where the legislative framework, has to be one where citizens feel very safe in interacting in technology. If you look at e-commerce, it has taken a while. When it was born in 1995, I think, until the early 2000s, where e-commerce became a normal thing. But not everybody here in Europe, feels comfortable for many reasons. And I'm not saying just senior citizens. There's many young people who are still a bit nervous about putting their credit card online. So I think there's a lot of awareness that needs to be done. There's a lot of skills that need to be shared. You can have some great technology in place, but if people don't fully understand how to use it, then it's not going to be used. So I think these are all factors that have to be considered. But when you look at something, for example, that was generally a completely alien technology, which is what we're doing right now, speaking online, in the health system last year, there was no way that consultations were being done online. It has moved now to over 70%, closer to 80%, where practitioners are talking to their patients online. So things can change, and they can change very quickly. And as I said earlier, we really have to take this terrible crisis, but the opportunity of the investments to start building that trust and capabilities. And the technology also has to be very intuitive. I should not need a university degree to be able to interact with it. And I think we're seeing more and more where the technologies are adapting, and this is AI, to the user. And this is a trend that I think will help build the trust we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Christopoulos?
Well, I would say that trust in the digital transformation issues do not only have to do with the artificial intelligence; they have to do with everything. Even with a platform that offers digital services, like we did here in Greece, one of our main concern is that will the citizens trust it? If something happens, if something goes wrong, will there be a breach in trust? However, artificial intelligence and these new types of technologies are the tip of the iceberg, the top of the technological, let's say, agenda. I would say that from a policymaker's point of view, from the state's point of view, trust can be built when you see that governments and public administrations actually understand what is going on, actually try to go with the pace, follow the speed that the developments, the technological developments take as well, and be able to discuss with the society, with the industry, and with citizens on what the main issues are. When I believe that when society and citizens see that the state is understanding the agenda and is trying to create a regulatory framework that will actually assist the development and find the right balance between protecting social interest and economic development, then the first stones for trust are set. But definitely, we are at a very new, let's say, environment, and we are still trying to find the ways to build this trust, this building blocks of trust, in order for people to understand the benefits of the new technological advancements.
Panos, can I just add one thing to that?
Yes, of course.
Just something that I think very few people actually are aware. But when you look at the airline industry, planes have been pretty much flying autonomously for many decades. I think since the 70s, the first a plane that could take off from Europe and land in the United States transatlantic with no human involvement was in 1948. So everyone takes a plane, maybe less so today, but everyone takes a plane, and we're not afraid of it. And I think if you look at the adoption of phones and stuff as well, it moves very quickly. So I think it really is kind of, once people use it, they become, more familiar with it.
Yes, but on an airplane, you have the pilot, or at least you have the psychological network, safety network, that there is a pilot in front, and not a computer driving. So I have one more question for you both, because it's a question from our audience. It's about digital divide, internal digital divide, not only in the European Unions, in the European regions, but also at a national level. And I would like to ask you about this. What kind of policies can we expect in order to bridge the digital divide? How big is this problem, first of all, and what are the policies that can address this problem? Mr. Christopoulos.
Digital divide is a reality in many countries, and especially in countries that have the geography that Greece has, or the fact that many areas for many years have been lagging behind, and now we're trying, at least from an e-government perspective, try to run the agenda forward. It seems very obvious that we might find some problems regarding digital literacy, digital divide, and issues like that. The policies for us are quite clear. We need to have a very strong agenda of digital reskilling and upskilling of citizens. It's not always very easy, and it's not always very successful. But we're trying to find ways that we can actually reach out to different parts of the population and try to see what their needs are, in order to be able to try and provide the right training for these people, in order to narrow down the digital divide. For example, in Greece, we have this plan to use the citizen centers, KEPs, which all the citizens use for their businesses and their interactions with the public sector, and create a small, let's say, learning centers. So when a citizen goes to a KEP, a citizen center, to do their business, there will be someone to show them how they can do it digitally, how they can use a computer, how they can use a platform to do it digitally. It's not. We believe that it's going to be an on-the-spot effort to bring together people who do not have this ability in order to have it to do it more easily. And we believe with actions like that, we will be able to narrow down the digital divide.
Mr. Pinto, you only have 1 minute to conclude.
Okay, so I fully agree with what was just said. It's definitely skills. I think we touched upon a lot of this. It's high broadband, right? That will accelerate the use. If you look at the year 2000, right, you will see that the digital divide was enormous. It was massive digital exclusion by age group, by wealth, by which country you were born in. That's changed. You know, there is many people across Africa and India and developing countries who have 2 or 3, phones with a lot of access to the internet. You have technology that's more intuitive, that makes it easier for aging citizens, to interact. So I think there's a lot of hope. I think change will move faster than we can imagine. I think AI will help with that. I think investments will help with that. And I think, however, the education systems need to be more creative. There are a lot of people who just cannot teach kids because the systems are very rigid. There's a lot of retired people. Why don't we ask retired people to use these online technologies to teach kids? It's something I'd be very happy to do when I retire. I'm not far away from that.
Mr. Christopoulos, Mr. Pinto, Mr. Christopoulos, thank you very much for this discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for joining us today. I would like to thank the Martin Center for European Studies on behalf of Konstantinos Karamanlis Institute for Democracy. Thank you very much. Don't miss the next panel, which is about a very important issue, the new European Pact on Migration. It's a panel organized by Luigi Sturzo Institute from Italy and Hans Seidel Stiftung from Germany. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.